We have to embrace that. We have to become a capitalist community of people where we increase the value of the assets held by the members of our community who also happen to be our listeners. And I got this idea from watching Fergs, who showed me a design for a merch website for Funky that someone in that 50,000 person Discord made.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh shit, this is exactly what's happening. Like, in a large enough pool of people, someone's spontaneously going to do your work for you better than you were going to do it for you. That's the other reason why you develop this community. If we have a podcast community, it's bigger than just an audience for the podcast. We might be like, hey, we want to make this web page appear, but it's taken a little bit of time, and someone might just make the web page appear for us. Like, there's a feedback loop here that comes with giving people incentive to improve the value of your community for you. Yeah, all success, I feel like, is driven by some irrational axiom. An axiom is a truth that we believe to be self-evident that we don't introspect into anymore. Right? You ever have that feeling? Like, there's certain things that we come to believe that we've stopped asking questions about. And if there's something that you believe that you take as a truth that you're not asking questions about, then it's like, it's an axiom. It's something that you believe.
And it's even more painful when it turns out to not be true. It can destroy you.
Right. Right. And so, like, I think the source of all success is like an axiom that's probably not very logical and probably crumbles under not very much introspection. And it's usually people who are like unhinged. They've become unhinged around like some belief that some condition needs to be true and isn't true yet. But yeah, it's like you gotta watch out for anything that makes you greedy. And greed I define as the behaviors that result from dwelling in a fear of not having enough. If you fear that you don't have enough resources, it can lead you to build structures and patterns to pursue stuff endlessly to like alleviate that fear. But once that,
What do you take that to the extreme? People who
have $100 million and
no, people who are living paycheck to paycheck.
Well, you can make almost the opposite argument for people that are living paycheck to paycheck, right?
That they're driven, their fear of not having enough is very justified.
Yeah, but I mean, I've lived with people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and they usually aren't very afraid of not making that next paycheck. If anything, they aren't taking a responsibility for how much of their circumstances are under their control. They aren't taking responsibility for experimenting with their circumstances or taking any significant risks to fix that. If anything, they're usually a little too comfortable with their paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. I think getting really disappointed either with yourself or with your circumstances and getting angry and fear that things aren't going to turn out for you well in the future unless you really figure out how to acquire resources is sort of like, it's the driver that gets people to start succeeding at stuff. And the fear stays around long after the success shows up. But the fear is also robbing you from enjoying the success as it arrives. And unfortunate aspect of that is that when you get to the end of the ride, you're not going to care about that either. And so like you're going to look back and realize that you were having fun during the rise, but you couldn't feel it because you were afraid of not having stuff.
Yeah, I was talking with my buddy Natan earlier, who is a very sage and wise man, am, I was talking to him about like my circumstances right now, some of the revelations I've had since the ayahuasca ceremony, integrating those into my life, also questioning them, not taking them as axioms in a lot of ways, right? Because it's very
Mm-hmm.
easy to fall into that, super easy.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I'm talking about the business. I'm like, man, it's growing. Like we got all these great clients, and our clients love us, and people are generally happy on the team, and like everyone is growing, and where it's like this wellness culture and all this cool stuff. And he's like, that's great, man. Like I'm super excited for you. And Hatan's a dude who's done very well for himself. And he's like, look, man, just remember that the things that you're talking about, that's the joy of the business, is like having fun along the ride and not chasing a dollar amount, some pie in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get to $10 million. I want to get to $20 million. I want to build a
Mm-hmm.
billion. I want to build $1 billion tech company.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like
Yeah.
he's. This is just, these are not like happiness. It's so trite because it's been said a billion times, but somehow it still escapes us in our everyday realization that it's true. It comes from within. It is deeply just, you can do nothing and be happy. You can be on a mountain breathing and you can be happy. Or like you could, like it's that intrinsic. And
Mm-hmm.
it has to come removed from your circumstances. It has to come removed from that. Otherwise, you're relying on circumstances to make you happy, and circumstances are always changing. And so you can't do this. It's a
Mm-hmm.
terrible foundation to build your emotional state on, right? So,
Yeah. And I think, and so in my removal from fear and ambition last year, and I think that's probably a good way to describe it. It's it was a removal from the fear of not having a paycheck, and from ambition, which is kind of a result of a fear, right? It's like I have this fear of not having enough, so I develop this concrete goal for this thing I'm going to get to, and then I develop an ambition that's going to force me to like make sacrifices and take actions to get to that goal, and that's the loop. Um, but without any of that, you would think that we would naturally, I don't know, become artistic, become expressive, and find things to do. But I discovered that I personally don't. Whether or not there's other people who do, that's a whole different thing. But for me, I discovered a lot of emptiness without having something. And so I started to think to myself, well, I need to do something. And so I started slowly ratcheting up the obligations I was letting myself take on and let other people put on me. And then we ended up in the business that we're in now. And I constantly end up telling myself there is no goal. Like, if I'm not enjoying the daily actions, then something's fucked up and that's got to change. Like, kind of, fuck the sacrifices in a lot of ways. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm already, like, for me, like, I'm already here. And so it's my job to figure out how to get the pressures right. That's how I think of it, is getting the pressures right. Like, what's the right amount of ambition? What's the right amount of fear and responsibility?
there's a
Because these
lot
things are like spices.
there's a lot also to be said in delaying gratification to go towards a brighter future, and part of that can be unpleasant, right? It could, like, you could not enjoy eating the kale salad, but it's going to lead you to healthier outcomes with your health later on, or whatever, insert XY, example. So
Mm-hmm.
the same can be said for inducing amounts of stress on yourself in work, because
Mm-hmm.
those can lead to you handling stress better, to you rising, to leveling up so that those things don't stress you anymore. to you
Mm-hmm.
becoming a higher, more efficient human being. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it is the balancing of those forces, like you said, right? It can't be to a point where you're like, the fuck am I doing? Right? That's not healthy. And I think some people do go there, and there are people that have gone there that have created really successful companies that have done amazing things. And so maybe some people are willing to make that trade-off for a given amount of time and years, and that's fine. I think you're not, and that's also fine. I don't only also think that nothing
I
it's not either
think
good or bad. Like it's not good or bad. It's just like yeah, there's a healthy level of ambition perhaps, but there's also some of the most ambitious people in the world are the ones that shape the world, and they're the ones that drive everything. That's Elon. It's like that level of ambition that is like unparalleled.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is true. Um, and a lot of the questions around how you get there and how you walk that walk your path and the style in which you do it. Um, those are all these parameters that we get to play with. I guess you want your mindset to grow along with your ambitions kind of at the same speed. And I think we feel I would go as far as to say that sacrifice is when your mindset is lagging your like sacrifice is when you have a goal you want to get to, but your mindset hasn't caught up with everything that you need to be to reach that goal. And so you perceive what you're giving up as a sacrifice, but it's not. Like if you're eating kale and you don't like that, it's probably because you perceive that something else would be more fun to eat. But if your mind and your body had grown to be in alignment with that, you wouldn't. You would just be eating kale and you would be like, this is how kale tastes. And you would just get the result of being healthier and whatever without any internal conflict.
It's that internal conflict. It's the resistance and the acceptance of perhaps what's necessary to get an end goal requires a given amount of inputs, and if you have internal conflict about those inputs,
That's
it,
how as we perceive that as sacrifice.
that's an interesting way to look at sacrifice. Yeah.
Because like I started to reach a point where like I'm starting to feel more alignment around things than I would have before. So like today, for instance, I spontaneously, I wrote that article about community capitalism. No one told me to do that. Um, and it was an organic thought that I had earlier this week or a little bit last week. And so in the rhythm of everything, it came up in a couple conversations. It sort of solidified in structure. I captured it as an article. I kind of excitedly broadcast it to the marketing channel and the team. And I enjoyed every part of that happening. And that's goes along with the PM of the team improving, which is something I'm naturally kind of bad at. I'm bad at organizing. And so like I've been pretty forward about trying to accept that and understand that and like honestly not even trying that hard to improve that about myself. I'm really just passing it off to someone else and then like having a conversation with that person, and that seems to be making up for large measure. It's like Gary Vee said. He's like, "Fuck what you're bad at. It's like just get rid
No,
of
you
it.
fire
Get
yourself.
rid of it."
That's what you do as an entrepreneur. You fire yourself from things that you suck at, and you hire people to do them better.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even have to do them that much better, but in doing that, that got me off of a few more PM tasks, or that makes it so I can be a little more certain that the right things are getting done. And so very naturally, my energy starts flowing into the next thing, which are the things that we're like, as a company, these are the things that we would like to exist. And yeah, so producing content in line with like trying to catch up to where the industry's at and these ideas, put names to them, and I starting to have these thoughts about like making a name for myself by trying to put words to these ideas before other people do, and get to where people start to do that thing where they go, "Oh yeah, I thought it, but he said it." And you want to give people that experience reliably, catch up with this stream of ideas, start to gain some recognition, and that's an organically exciting process. Um, and I started thinking, and along the lines of this community capitalism thing, it now has given me this vision that we need to sell our own. We have to embrace that. We have to become a capitalist community of people where we increase the value of the assets held by the members of our community who also happen to be our listeners. And I got this idea from watching Fergs, who showed me a design for a merch website for Funky that someone in that 50,000 person Discord made.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh shit, this is exactly what's happening. Like, in a large enough pool of people, someone's spontaneously going to do your work for you better than you were going to do it for you. That's the other reason why you develop this community. If we have a podcast community, it's bigger than just an audience for the podcast. We might be like, hey, we want to make this web page appear, but it's taken a little bit of time, and someone might just make the web page appear for us. Like, there's a feedback loop here that comes with giving people incentive to improve the value of your community for you.
Yeah, you're describing a DAO.
Kind of, right? It's a lot of things, and if it is and can be a lot of things. That's one of the things, but it's DAOs are one of those things that it's hard to say what they are because it doesn't have a commonly agreed upon definition yet.
Yeah, right. But like that could be an instance in which a DAO would be highly effective, right? You have a community of people, and the community has an objective, and there's shared ownership, and people who want to participate can add value in various ways, and that makes the community more valuable, and then that in turn enriches the individuals that are delivering value to the community.
Mm-hmm. I guess the way that I've been talking to people about DAOs, and like one of the problems that DAOs struggle with is sort of a lack of leadership and central direction,
Right.
kind of as one might expect.
Yeah. It's
And
so, yeah, you need to have like it's like, yeah, I was thinking about that as well. And I was like, what does that look like? What does a structure that takes that into account look like? And I was thinking like maybe it could be a DAO with like a board, or a board of advisors that controls a healthy portion, or there is a designated like, yeah, no, it's just it's very difficult because it wouldn't at that point be once there's a face and a leader, then it.
I have a model.
Okay.
I have a model that I think is useful. Um, Imagine a gladiator on the floor of the Colosseum about to kill someone. And there's a crowd of people, and there's an emperor. And the crowd and the emperor, between the crowd, the emperor, and the gladiator, they're making a choice about whether or not to kill this person. The gladiator is the operators of the company. The emperor is whatever the voting mechanism is. The mob has its own incentives. And the gladiator feels the emotional rush of interacting with the mob. The emperor feels the power of being the decision maker in the middle. And like DAOs, I think
we gotta reach out
DAOs,
to Russell Crowe. We gotta reach out to Russell Crowe, dude. We gotta
if
get
we could reach out to Russell Crowe and I could live out any amount of my lifelong joy of watching Gladiator, that would be fantastic.
like, listen, man, we got this idea for a DAO. We
Yeah.
want you to be the guy
Yeah.
who's the gladiator. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting analogy. That's it is. It's like the it needs to create some sort of cohesive branches of government in a way where they all serve different functions and they can all check each other. It needs to get. It sounds complex in a way. It's like
I
different.
think,
It's like different branches of a DAO that can all have power and they all impact, but it's something that ends up ultimately allowing each other. They all can check each other in a way.
yeah, I'm at this point, like I don't know how to get. I would love for the government structures to be the governance structures to be more clear on how to implement them so that they're efficient. What I'm observing right now with like Fergs and let's say the funky community is a simpler relationship where so there's the founding team. They came up with the project and did the marketing. And in a sense, they are basically the gladiators. They are the people executing on the project. They're kind of the gladiator and the emperor at the same time. Um, and they've got this mob of 50,000 people that they're like, I'm gonna kill this guy. You want me to kill this guy? And then they go, yeah, or no, or whatever. And that's just kind of a simple decision making mechanism. It's just the noise and the discord drives what they do with their resources in a way. So it's a simple feed. It's a very human, simple high school popularity feedback mechanism for making decisions. Is it good capital allocation? Who knows, and probably not. Um,
Right.
but
That's the thinking you
but
have.
who's yeah? You give communities what they want.
Well, that's yeah, yes. However, if you're talking about running a business, businesses live and die. And
Uh-huh.
if you're going to run a business on a DAO, you know, the general mob running your business is a terrible idea because most people have absolutely no business sense and they'll run you right off a cliff based purely on
Well,
emotion or greed or fear.
yeah, but here's the thing: if they're your buyers, then
Right, but
you.
it's kind of like, yeah, I want this thing, and then you get it, and you're like, oh wait, that was a terrible idea. I'm out of here.
Well, but if you combine the incentives of the crowd, and if they receive the same upside or downside as you, they're part of the feedback loop of what you do too. So like they experience that downside and they should feel that and they should come back at you with more with the next iteration of the cycle. And I think it's much more supportive than the one-way communication that typically happens in business where like I go through all sorts of risk to say like set up my coffee shop. I'm always going to use the coffee shop example. I go through the I go through all the risk to set up this shop and choose how it looks and then people just don't show up for a reason that no one's telling me about. And I took all the risk and I've got no feedback and like it's just done, right? It just a lot of businesses die in silence. Um, Whereas if you have that initial investment and the community and feedback while you're building it and doing things and iterating, the feedback loop is rapid. The source of new money is obvious. The chance for iteration is also kind of obvious. And I think it can lead to much more like self-supporting communities that communicate with more incentives in more ways and probably find success more naturally and more quickly. And that's kind of the essence of what I think this community focused capital because it is extractive, right? If I'm doing something and I'm pitching something to this community, I perpetually need new sources of money for them to keep doing whatever the capital intensive activity is. Um, it's a it's a cost sharing, it's a risk sharing and cost sharing method of becoming more efficient at something. Um, and it's not anything really new. It's not new in terms of like it's just a business doing the same thing businesses have always done, but it is new in that it's putting direct incentives on more things. It's hooking up more measuring devices onto a business really and putting a dollar value on them. And that's fascinating. And I think what's really fascinating about it is I think it leads very directly to more successful businesses that are more competitive than the same business without those mechanisms. They're going to do better. They're going to have more money on day one. They're going to be able to buy a bigger, better coffee shop. They're going to be able to put better loyalty programs. They're going to be able to market better than a competing coffee shop.
What it allows for, in essence, is faster iteration and faster failure.
Faster failure and less punishing failure for founders, right? If I can split up the investment on the front end,
Which
then
means
when
yeah,
it
you can
fails,
iterate. Yeah, you can
yeah,
iterate more. Yeah, because
I don't dwell
you're
in my
not wiped out.
failure.
Yeah, you're not wiped out.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't dwell on your failure. You just get on to the next thing. You kind of create, it's sort of like the social safety net that your average, more like left leaning person wants. It's like it's like the social safety net that your average, more like left leaning person wants,
Yeah.
but that your typical capital structures don't offer. In a way, this is a way for capital structures to become richer, conceptually richer, and be able to facilitate people growing, experimenting, and deconflicting their interests and motivating others to do the things they need in a more direct, faster way. And again, I mean, going along to our core theses of like, what world are we going toward? What are these super cities that are on the horizon? I think these are the activities that are happening in these super cities.
I want to just. I'd be totally down to move to some island that is just run on a DAO and just experience what the hell that looks like. What
Dude, I think it's gonna be
what the fuck
Lisbon
does
is what
that?
it's gonna be.
Yeah, you think it's gonna be Portugal?
Lisbon, Portugal. Yeah. If they encourage this stuff enough, like that's what they're inviting into their backyard.
That's true. They might not even understand it fully. They probably don't. They
They
probably
don't need to
just
understand it, right?
yeah, they probably don't. They're just like, "Oh, this is clearly popular. Let's just
They
incentivize
just
all of these rich smart entrepreneurs or people who are excited about technology and to come to our place because anyone could look at what happened exactly what you said I think on a previous podcast anyone could look at what happened to Silicon Valley. It's like why did we win? Because we had the developers.
mm-hmm.
All the developers wanted to go to Silicon Valley to build.
Mm-hmm.
So if
And
all of those developers and entrepreneurs that are looking to, not get ass blasted by taxes go to Lisbon.
yeah, it's Lisbon and all these other cities. It's just it's gonna pop up. I think all the same things. They're just gonna reinvent themselves in a bunch of different geographies in places that just aren't opposed to it happening. And and I think the places that are quote unquote opposed to it happening, they aren't even opposed. They just aren't helping. Like, and you will be punished for not helping. I think that's sort of the deal. Is like if you create an environment that's just not rich soil for this stuff, you will be punished.
We
And
have the midterms coming up in a few months.
yeah. I
That's
think
gonna be wild. That's gonna be wild. That's might
yeah,
be
I think
the closest I've ever followed politics is probably going to be this election cycle.
dude, the politicians are about to get a lesson in like they're about to learn about the crypto voting base, and they will not be kind to the anti-crypto lot. They will not be kind. They will raise money. It will be vicious. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean they don't even have to. It could happen so quickly. Like it was like
Oh,
50
a,
million,
a tens.
$50 million over in 48 hours.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the first examples because I know in my bones it's going to
Maybe we
happen.
shouldn't
I
wait.
know.
Maybe we shouldn't wait. Maybe we should initiate.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait, man. When we start getting into like late summer, when we start getting to like the first debates and things that matter for these politicians, and some of them are they're gonna take the wrong bet. They're gonna say, "Oh, I'm anti-crypto. I'm whatever." They're gonna go that direction, and they are going to get the boot, man. A tidal wave of money is going to show up against them. And they're going to be so blindsided. They're going to be so surprised that this thing exists. And it's going to be biblical. And then they're going to see a couple of examples like this. And then every anti-politician is going to shut their mouth forever on the subject.
So yeah, you're gonna
They're going
see
to
it
shut their mouth
happen.
forever.
Maybe so.
I think it's obvious. Politicians are a skittish type. They see something, they're sifting through signal through noise all the time. And when something comes up as a truly non-controversial issue that is well funded by rich people, they shut up forever. They never bring it up again. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Is like there's a few people that are confused about whether or not this is like something that the public wants to debate, and they're going to find out in no uncertain terms that everyone likes to make money, and it's gonna kick them right in the face.
That was a good call, bud. Just do it again.
Yeah, man.